Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled, To Live Spiritually Alive, with open hands, open eyes, open hearts, and open minds. And I'm going to begin with a story. It's a story from India, and it's a story that several traditions use to illustrate a simple truth, really, about truth and the revelation of truth. So it's used in the Jain tradition and the Hindu tradition and some Buddhist traditions too. And it's called the Blind Men and the Elephant. So once upon a time, there were 6 blind men, and they lived in a town in India. The blind men thought that they were very, very clever. Their wisdom, they believed in their own wisdom, in their own truth. Very smart people, they believed they were at least. Anyway, one day an elephant came into the town, and the blind men obviously did not know what an elephant looked like. But they could smell the elephant and they could hear the elephant. And they said to themselves, what is this animal like? So they went to investigate, and each man touched a different part of this great beast, a different part of the elephant. The first man touched the elephant's body, and it felt hard and big and wide. And he said, an elephant is like a wall. The second man touched one of the elephant's tusks. It felt smooth and hard and sharp. And he said, an elephant is like a spear. The third man touched the elephant's trunk. It felt long and thin and a little bit wiggly. And he said, well, the elephant is like a snake, he said. The fourth man touched one of the elephant's legs, and it felt thick and rough and hard and round. And he said, well, an elephant is like a tree. The fifth blind man touched one of the elephant's ears, and the ear felt thin and it moved. He could feel a breeze from it, and he said, well, an elephant is like a fan. And the sixth blind man touched the elephant's tail, and it felt long and thin and strong. And he said, well, an elephant is like a rope, he said. And they all spoke their truth, and they all began to argue about what an elephant was like. It's like a wall. No, it isn't. It's like a spear. No, it isn't. It's like a snake. And on it went. They could not agree on what an elephant was like. Now the king happened to be passing by and watched and listened to the men, these so-called clever men. And he said to them, you are not very clever, are you? You only touched part of the elephant. You did not feel the whole of the animal. And an elephant is not like a wall or a spear or a snake or a tree or a fan or a rope. The men left. They were left, and they were still arguing, and they argued into the night. They wandered off out of the village, and a little girl heard them and she called out to them and said, you know, each of you is right, but you're also wrong. But I understand what you're talking about. You need to get together and listen to one another. And maybe if they learned to listen to each other, being open to one another, then together, if they brought their wisdom together and shared it and understood it and truly listened to one another instead of trying to prove the other wrong, maybe eventually they would have learned what an elephant actually is. Maybe. So a bit of wisdom there from using several Indian traditions. Now it's just been my birthday, just the other day, and I've received some lovely gifts for my birthday. Some arrived through the letterbox, others were given to me directly, some were left on my doorstep. And I was given a wonderful book on Ralph Waldo Emerson, actually, written by a former member of Dunham Road Unitarian Chapel, Altrincham, one of the congregations I served. It was written by Alexander Ireland, who is the father of the great composer John Ireland. Now, Alexander Ireland and Emerson were great friends. And as Emerson has said of friends, the only way to have friends is to be one. And words inspired by his friendship with Alexander Ireland. They were lifelong friends. On my birthdays, I often think that the greatest gift of my life, of all the gifts I've received in my life, the greatest gifts are my friends, and I have many. The folk I get, and all my life I've been blessed with good friends. Got many now. Many go back decades. Many are quite new. These different people I get to walk and journey and share with throughout the journey that is life, day by day, which is what a journey is. And another friend sent me a lovely, lovely WhatsApp message on my birthday. And the message included the following thought, which I'm not sure where he found this thought, but anyway, he shared it with me, and the thought opened my heart. I will read it to you. When asked about the lens through which she chooses to see the world, the Quaker songwriter Carrie Newcomer shares her practice of seeing with the eyes of love. She said, "My life as a songwriter and poet has asked me to consider how I look at the world on a daily, moment-to-moment kind of way. Our first job is to pay attention, and then to take in what we see with a certain kind of spirit, and for me, a certain kind of love. I think it's a practice, and the more you practice it, the more you see, the more you see, the more you see with love. The big things I love my husband, I love my daughter, I love justice, I love mercy. I love so many big things, but my life is also filled every day with all these glorious little loves. There can be great meaning and great love in small things. I love blueberries. I love the smell of lilacs. And I love how little kids hold each other's hands when they go across the street. In looking at the small moment and the small things through love, it's not always completely joyous. You take it all. When you decide I'm going to be here, I'm going to be present, and I'm going to be present with love, you take it all. Thank you, Carrie, for that beautiful wisdom. And thank you, my friend, for sending this to me on my birthday. He knows that I try to look at the world, look at the little things with love. Not always easy. It's not always easy taking it all. But there is no other way, I have discovered. You have to look at it all with eyes wide open and heart and mind and soul open too, and then respond with hands that are open to it all. Like Carrie, it is often the little things that bring the greatest blessings in our lives. I continue on day by day. I share my blessings every morning upon awakening with friends on social media, one of them being the person who sent that lovely WhatsApp. On awakening, I have a little quiet time and in silence and in prayer, and then I reflect on the day before, and then I share. And I was thinking of the little blessings as I reflected on my birthday gifts and birthday greetings, including a few friends with mixed ability singing, let's just say, who sent me lovely happy birthday messages with voice notes on WhatsApp. Some of them were trying to mimic me, some of them were hilarious, some of them were very much mixed ability, but the love was there. As I looked down at my little blessing, Molly, who I collected 3 years ago, what a lovely little blessing she is. It comes in the little things, thus saith the Lord. And as people probably know, I've had her just over 3 years now. That was just before my birthday. And I'd gone to collect one of her sisters, not her. I'd not chosen her, but she chose me. She insisted on coming home with me that day, and how much I needed her. For it was a day of deep sorrow, as it was also the day that our youngest cousin Cheryl had died. Molly kept my heart open in that time of grief, as she keeps my heart open every day. And I need to keep my heart open, as sometimes I am tempted to close my heart to all the pain, all the anger, all the suffering that is abound, all the hate, all those things that trouble me deeply day by day. But I don't. And it's love that keeps it open. And it's love that must keep it open. And it's love that must prevail. I had a beautiful, beautiful experience of an open-hearted conversation this last Wednesday at the Urmston Common Search for Meaning group. We were sharing about memory. It was a beautiful conversation, and it lifted several folk who were present out of their own worries and their own current anxieties, as we simply connected with each other in that moment that we were living in. We brought ourselves to life. We spoke with open minds and with open hearts. And one thing that came up in the conversation was how folk can remember things that they experienced together oh so differently. How we experience life oh so differently. And how vital it is that we remain open to the experiences of others so that we can take it all in. Otherwise, we're just like the blind men and the elephant. We only get the full picture if we listen to each other, if we listen with the ears of our hearts to one another's experiences. And somewhere in there, we might discover something that resembles the whole truth. But most of us only get a partial glimpse of the whole, and that's filtered through our own biases. It's not always easy, although it is vital to remain open, or as open as possible. And it's also vital to remain humble, especially when it comes to truth claims. We only get a glimpse of the truth, if at all, and only from our current perspective. We're all like those blind men trying to work out what an elephant is. If I have learned anything about spiritual living, I have learned that the key is openness. The key to spiritual living is to live with open hearts, open minds, open eyes, and open hands. These four are spiritual living in practice, which is the essence, I believe, to the free religious life. Not creed-like religion, but truly living, breathing, practicing religion. A religion or a spirituality that not only brings us to life, but enables us to live truly alive and awake in this, our shared world. Openness is at the heart of my understanding of my free religious tradition. I have come to believe the essence of openness, of course, is humility, especially when it comes to truth claims. And openness is very much a doing word. It's not so much that you are open, more that you live openly. And to do so religiously, I believe, is to do so be open in those four ways. Open hands, open eyes, open hearts, and open minds. That's faithful living. And it's in this faithful living that the God of my limited understanding comes to life. But it connects me to all life, allows me to live in life, open to all that is. Now, to practice an open mind, an open heart and open eyes enables us then to live with open hands. But that's no easy task. In fact, it's virtually impossible to master. No, I've not met anyone yet who has, certainly not me. We begin, we continue, we practice intentionally. To live with open eyes is to see the world as it truly is, to see reality as reality really is, warts and all, and beauty spots too. To live with open eyes is to not turn away from the suffering present in life. But it's also to pay attention to the beauty too, to notice those little things. To live with open eyes is to see the reality of the whole of life, which is not easy, for we are so often tempted to turn away. To live fully connected lives, we need to live with open eyes, to see life with all its blessings and all its curses. And that's what I do every morning, as I share those little things that I notice from the day before, and I share it openly for those who wish to share in it too. To live with an open mind is to be able to search for truth and meaning while maintaining an awareness of the tension between certitude and curiosity. It is the balance of being receptive to what is new and foreign while at the same time holding on to what is most dear to us. It is to try to know while in the presence of the unknown and the unknowable. And of course, living this way can make others uncomfortable, and they may try and close our minds or put their thoughts, their truths into our minds. It's hard to live with an open mind. And of course, it does not mean that we don't discern, that we don't come to conclusions. Of course, everyone comes to conclusions. It's vital to come to conclusions, for if you don't come to a conclusion, you don't know where to act in the world. It's just that after the decision, the openness after that must then be maintained, for it's never too late to once again change our minds if our minds remain open. We must keep our minds open, but we must also be discerning about what we put in our minds or what others put in our minds for us. We must seek our truth, or seek a truth, or the truth, if you like. That's vital. But don't stay closed once a truth is revealed. Now, the key to living with an open, loving heart is to live with all our senses, including our sixth sense, our soul, open to all the wonders and the mysteries of life. But again, there are dangers here. Living with an open heart exposes us to pain and to fear. To truly live with an open heart is to allow ourselves to be touched in the most tender of places. This can really hurt sometimes. But remember, Cupid's arrow had to first of all pierce the flesh before it could penetrate the heart. So always remember that love hurts. Been feeling it this week as I've learnt of a friend who may not survive the week. To live with an open heart is to follow that great commandment. It's agape love. It is to love others no matter who they are, no matter where they have been, no matter where they come from. It is to love without condition, unconditional love, which is hard. It is to live with empathy, to feel with. It is to follow the golden rule. It is to love our neighbour as we would wish to be loved ourselves. To see ourselves in the other and the other in ourselves. And this requires love and compassion for ourselves, of course, which can sometimes for some of us be the greatest challenge. It is to feel a deep connection with all that is, all that has been, all that will ever be. It is to recognise that in order to feel this connection requires us to share ourselves, to open ourselves vulnerably. To love is to practice forgiveness too, to begin again in love, over and over again to begin again in love. To practice living with a loving heart is to live willing to be transformed by what we encounter in our daily lives. We must remain open. And by living with these three, open eyes, open minds, open hearts, we can then practice living with open hands. Hands that welcome, hands that humbly accept our interconnectedness, humble hands, hands that are willing to do what they can do, hands that can serve, hands that can play their parts in this, our shared world. And this means being willing to practice committing and recommitting to use my hands, my abilities in service of all that is life, to take responsibility for attempting to create that kingdom of love where all are kin and all are loved. That kingdom of love right here, right now. Living with open hands is about being a loving presence, regardless of the world that we inhabit, regardless of what's going on around us. We must be a loving presence. Our open eyes allow us to recognize where our hands can be of use in the world if our minds and our hearts remain open. This is the key. But open hands are not just what we do. They are also about connection. And perhaps open hands, about more than anything, are about humility. For it is humility that is the key to living openly. But some people don't like the word humility, do they? It's often a misunderstood word. To be humble is to be at home in our true humanity, to be grounded in our own reality and our shared humanity. The key to humility is to recognize that we are part of something larger than our singular selves. Humility is not about being meek and mild and bowing and scraping. It's not about being self-deprecating or denigrating. Too often humility is seen this way, particularly from a religious perspective. It's seen as an excuse for suffering and meekness. But that's not true humility. True humility is about living with open hands and doing what we can in the world. We can only do this if we live with open hearts, open minds, open eyes. We can only do this if we recognize our common humanity. And humility is an interesting word. It's an interesting word when we understand it correctly. It has its roots in the word humus, which means of the earth, and it also shares the same linguistic root as human or humanity. To be humble is to be grounded in this life. To be humble is to recognize our honest place in the world and life in general, whilst recognizing that life itself does not revolve around us. And humility is the core of my chosen Unitarian faith. I believe at its heart it's a humble faith. Our tradition is open and accepting. We welcome, we celebrate diversity. We honour one another's points of view. Are these not what acts of humility are? And by doing so, we are not only accepting that each of us have limits, but that we need to know what we need to listen to one another in order to get a glimpse of the truth. We cannot be like the blind man and the elephant. We need to be open to one another in order to see new and deeper truths. We cannot make sense of anything alone. That's the essence of free religion. This coming together and experiencing more than we could have ever imagined alone. And of course, coming together in love. And by doing so, we honour and acknowledge that on our own we cannot know everything, and that by being open to others we may see and understand things differently, and then our understanding is challenged. And by doing so in love, we honour these, we celebrate these differences. Humility, true humility in its truest sense, is about rejoicing in the challenge that others who see things differently can reveal to us. and in so doing, our understanding is expanded. We no longer have to be the blind man trying to work out what an elephant is. The key is to live openly, and of course the key to openness is humility. No one lives apart from anyone else. We are all interdependent, and none of us know everything. We all vision through the glass dimly. And yet there's a limitless to openness. Who knows how much we can truly change and learn to love if we just stay open in our hearts, in our minds, and our eyes. Who knows what we can do with our loving hands if we live with truly open eyes, open hearts, and open minds. Who knows what we are open to. To live, the key to living is to live with open eyes, open hearts, open minds, and open hands. And the key to that is true humility. To see that we are grounded in our shared humanity. The key is to see that we are part of something far greater than ourselves, and that through recognizing this, we will know the love present in life, and we will begin to bring that love alive right here and right now through our humble humanity. Every day, every single day is a day when we can bear witness to a power greater than ourselves. And we do this when we love one another with open hands, when we see the world with truly open eyes, when we've lived with minds that are truly open and our hearts open to the love waiting to enter and the love waiting to be poured out onto our world that so dearly needs it, that really needs it, even more so at this time. I believe it is our human task, our humble task, to truly live open lives. This is true, real spiritual living. This to me is true religion. I believe it is our task to bring love alive through our openness. It is our task to allow God to incarnate through our humble lives. And to do so, we need to live with open hands, open hearts, open minds, and open eyes. And that's how we love our shared world, and our world needs it right now. Amen. I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. And we bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So let us live in love, a love for life, a love for one another, a love for self, a love for God. And may we carry this love with us in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and in all that we do. Amen.